Well, welcome to Quixotic Heights, the podcast where we explore bold ideas, improbable journeys, and the people who dare to climb toward a better world. Today's guest is a man whose life reads like an epic. From officer stationed at the formidable La Paz along the I think it's the India-China border, to entrepreneur, scholar, and architect of sweeping social reform. He is the author of Mountains to Cross and founder and CEO of Shanti, Bhavan. After serving in the Indian Army, Dr. Abraham George moved to the United States, earning 2 master's degrees and a PhD in business administration from New York University. He built a successful entrepreneurial career spanning nearly, I believe, 25 years, only to walk away from it and return to India with a singular mission to confront entrenched discrimination and expand opportunity for the nation's most marginalized communities. His work has led to the creation of transformative educational institutions, a rural hospital serving 15 villages, and pioneering environmental health advocacy that helped remove lead from gasoline across India in April of 2000, I believe, which is a landmark public health achievement. I would love to learn more about that. He has served on the boards of Human Rights Watch and the International Center for Journalists, and he is the recipient of the prestigious Hind Ratan. And I apologize if I pronounced that wrong. But beyond the accolades and institutions is a deeper story about courage, conscience, and what it means to redefine success. So hello, Dr. Abraham George. We have a lot to unpack today, and I'm so excited to talk to you. One of my favorite quotes is from Confucius, and he talks about we all have 2 lives. It's only when we realize we have one that our second one begins. And I feel like you may have been living that truth, that quote that I just said. Can you share a little bit about your background with us and what that quote may mean to you?
Sure, Amy. First, I have to express my appreciation for asking me to come. And your introduction about me so long, I I'm flattered and embarrassed, and I look forward to answering any questions you have. But let me start with the first question that you asked me, my background. I was born in a seaside town in the southernmost tip of India where 3 oceans meet, the Indian Ocean, the Bay of Bengal, and the Arabian Sea. They all come together at the bottom of India. I was almost at the tip of India. And at the age of 14, I decided to get trained to be an officer in the Indian Army. It's a 4-year training program in one of the so-called elite colleges, the schools for turning out officers. Those days, I'm talking about 50 years or more. Those days, India was following the British tradition and the Academy of Sandhurst and West Point and so on. Anyway, I was sent up to the mountain pass in the Himalayas, bordering China, soon after I got my commission as an officer in the artillery. And I was sent up actually to 14,000 feet above sea level, very, very cold, lack of oxygen and everything else. And very close to the Chinese border. We had, India had fought a war with China just a couple of years before that. So there was a lot of uncertainty whether China would attack again. And so we were in a hurry to dig bunkers in the mountains, moving huge rocks. You can imagine the Himalayan mountains. And at the end of 11 months, I met with an accident. Mainly because the fuse wire that connects between the lighting, where light the wire and the detonator that is inside the gun cotton and dynamite, I had to keep cutting the length of that wire because the army wasn't sending me enough wires. And I had to keep blasting it. And finally, I came down to 3 inches and I had only less than 10 seconds to escape. And this time, one day, after 2 or 3 days, I became too familiar with this whole process. Previously, the soldiers were lighting it because the wire was long and everybody, would be quite distant away. But this time I decided to take it on myself as an officer, not leave it to the soldier because he could get killed. I thought I was pretty smart, but it didn't work out that way. I didn't catch the lighting, and miraculously, I did see the while almost reaching the dynamite. I turned around and jumped, but the blast was just at that point, and I was badly wounded. And I was taken to a field hospital, and that is the background. But in that period of 11 months, a lot of things happened to me. One of the things that happened to me was I was alone in the mountains with 400 soldiers. And for 11 months in that weather, you start thinking about the purpose of what you're doing. I was 18, young man, and I used to climb the hills up there, even higher than 14,000, and sit there and watch the clouds go under me. The sky was below me, I was above it. And I had a lot of time to think, and I had read a number of books, and two books. One was by Bertrand Russell, the the history of Western philosophy. Bertrand Russell is a very well-known philosopher. And the other is Albert Schweitzer, who was a German doctor who journeyed in a canoe through the jungles of Africa to Central Africa and reached a country people hardly know, Gabon, and Equatorial Africa, where he established a clinic for the tribals and who were living away from civilization. And it is today a major hospital. And that fascinated me as a young man. I thought it was very romantic. What a wonderful thing to do, live with the animals and everything else. You don't realize what hardships you have to go through. But Bertrand Russell, on the other hand, wrote a line which caught me. And he said, there is nothing right about war. It is about who is left.
Yeah.
So the choice of right and left, how he described. And I asked myself, look, I'm trained to be an officer to kill other people. And here I am digging bunkers to kill the Chinese if they come across. And I couldn't think of being a soldier for the rest of my life. And it was certainly not my calling, I realized. And I said to myself that I must do something with my life at some point, which is purposeful. And when the blast took place, it became very clear that I must leave as quickly as possible. And at one point, at some stage in my life, I should devote my life to service. And I was quite practical, young man. I said, well, unless I have a lot of money, this won't work. So first I have to go and study somewhere and have a good job. And there's no better place than America at that time, 50 years ago, actually 56 years ago. And I came to America and did my graduate work. And then after a couple of years with JP Morgan and things like places like that, I started my own firm, which lasted for another 25 years. Then when I realized that I had made enough money and I can keep on making money, I said, no, this is it. I am getting, if I stay around, I'll get too old. And I quit everything. I sold my company, sold everything I had, and came to this remote village from where I am talking to you. And established the school for children from the poorest to the poor, and who are discriminated because of the caste system that's prevalent in India. You
Mm.
have different levels of human, hierarchy.
Yeah.
And I was appalled by that, and I wanted to find a way to give them the opportunity to come out of that. So those were my motivation. Actually, I was more motivated by the social injustice than by the economic hardship. Of course, poverty was very, very important, things to deal with. But so I came here, and I've been here now 30 years.
So you've had more than two lives, it sounds like. you, you've done a lot of pivoting, and what I find fascinating, there's several things that you said, but let's just start with you deciding at the age of 14 to go into the military. Is that something that is normal in India? I mean, what is typically the trajectory of a young person at the age of 14?
Not really at all. In
Yeah.
northern India, northern part of India, there have been invasions by so many uh, different nations. The Alexander the Great invaded India. The Persians invaded India. Then you have uh, uh, who else? The Chinese invaded. There's so many different people invaded, and so the North had an experience with war. So their families, many of the families have all, people serving the military, but the South was insulated. And
Mm.
so there were hardly any. But in my case, I was living by a house which was overlooking a parade ground. And in the parade ground, every morning, the soldiers are walking up and down. And I was,
Wow.
oh, wow, they are doing such marvelous walking. And that was my motive, excitement.
Okay. But then you, of course, you had your accident and, thankfully you survived that. But then you also made the conscious decision that, you know what, I have a greater purpose than this, and I'm going to go to America and get a degree, get education. Um, walk me through that process. What was it like for you to make that decision? What was it like to leave your family? What was it like to, actually come to America and start a new life there?
Right. The decision was made at the age of 18, as I said, because I was wounded at that time. The idea of service came into my mind. The experience I've had by then on the discrimination that people of the lower caste were facing, and the rampant poverty. India was having famine every year. Not the India today. At that time, India was extremely poor. All that I had witnessed, and I wanted to make my contribution. That it made sense to me. But as I said, I had to have money, and that's where the land of opportunity came along. And so the next 28 years or more, I was in New York, Wall Street, and everything else. And the process was during my graduate studies. I was always looking for a formula, how to do this. And I used to talk to my professors. There was one professor who was the vice dean of NYU Business School, with whom I became very close. He would make suggestions, and we would argue about various things we could do, and I could do, and so on. And he guided me quite a bit. And then the next 25 years was an effort to make money. Uh, I lived a fairly good life in terms of comfortable life. I had a nice house and all the luxuries of being a successful businessman. But no, I didn't waste any money. I was trying to save money, and and at the age of 49, I said I cannot allow myself to cross into 50. So I said, I'm going to sell everything, everything. My house, all my possessions. My wife moved into an apartment. Uh, she was alone, and my children had gone to college. And I took all the money to India, and
Mm.
I thought I had plenty of money until 2008 came along. And when I say took all the money, means I put it into stocks and all of that, and you know, and real estate. And yeah, here comes Katrina, and all the land values went down by 50-60%. Here comes the recession of 2008, another 60% of your value of your stocks.
Yeah.
You couldn't anticipate all these things happening. I of course I read people losing billions of dollars. So my losing millions it doesn't sound much, but it was important. I had lost quite a bit of money, and so I had to reach out to donors. So the first 15 years, I was doing everything myself in India. I built all the things around me and the campuses and, some of the projects that you talk about, hospital, all of that I did. And I was quite comfortable until this thing happened. Then at the end of 15 years, I had to reach out to others. And that was a good thing that happened because no one should do these projects by himself. You should
Mm.
gather good people around you, have the strength, listen to them, and you will be a lot more accommodating rather than autocrat. You can't be an autocrat with the business of service. And so my hardship, financial hardship, was a good lesson and a good transformation.
That's a lot to swallow because yeah, you had this plan and it all went up, I mean, at least we didn't have COVID on top of all that too, but
Right, exactly.
um wow. So I can imagine, I don't know about India, but like in Vietnam, being a NGO and trying to do good is not that easy, right? You have bureaucratic red tape, you have donors who want you to account for every single dollar that they're giving you. And you're right, you need to have the right people, the right agents around you to help you push that mission forward because you can't do it alone to a degree, which is very heroic. Can you walk us through a little bit of some of the roadblocks that you faced while trying to achieve your goal of, building schools and that kind of stuff?
Well, until the financial crisis came along, it was a one-man decision. So I had the money, I did it my way, right or wrong, right? So I can't describe anything exciting except that I had to fight the bureaucracy. I had to fight landlords who didn't like what I was doing because I was helping the poorest. And they would say something like this: if you employ all these poor people, who will work in my field?
Mm,
So, or they would say, you're taking all the children of the poor, and my children can't study in a school like this. We'll burn it down.
mm,
So I was confronting all kinds of anger from the locals whom I'm trying, I mean, not from the people whom I'm helping, but the surrounding people.
yeah, yeah.
And so those things were there, and I was smart enough to organize myself, have my own strength in certain people who surrounded me, and protected myself. I was always careful not to drive alone and things like that. So I took care of myself, even though there were some incidents where I could have been killed. But we won over the villages, and we won over even the landlords by giving them jobs in the foundation. So uh, we did a lot of things that I can go on for an hour telling you all the things. But let me jump ahead and say, after we started trying to raise money, well, it was not an experience I knew anything about, fundraising.
Mhm.
And when I, came to someone who had plenty of money and I said, this is what I'm doing, I would like you to help me. He would ask me, it could be a corporation, he would ask me, if I give you this much money, when will I see the result? I think it was, they were looking for an answer like 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, and
Mhm.
I'm answering 18 years. These kids have to grow from 4 years of age to 18, 20 when they graduate from college and have a job. Then you will know that my work has produced this. They say, get out of my office.
I can
Uh,
imagine. Yeah. But that's,
so
go ahead.
that was the challenge, everybody wants instant result. Uh, these programs, funding programs, even today, they want quarterly reports, annual reports, how many people have been benefited. And my model was just exactly the opposite. I was not working with numbers. I was working with success, quality. The
Mm,
children that I bring up should be able to compete in the world with anyone. Those who are from the affluent society. They should be able to go to the best colleges anywhere in the world. They should be able to get jobs in the multinationals. That was my goal. And for that, just give some literacy education or something like that. It doesn't do anything for them. They will still go back to their hut. They will have some menial jobs, and I'm not putting down anybody's job, but I'm just saying they can't turn into professionals in a major company.
mhm,
So this is a problem I was facing. But today things have changed. People are beginning to understand that quality matters. The children must get excellent education to be successful. The productivity of the country depends on workers who are highly productive. And especially today's AI and world like that, the kids have to be very savvy about technology.
mhm,
And technology is not the only thing, in any number of business field, finance, and all of that. So today there is a greater awareness, but that is after 30 years. But first 25 years, I had a hard time trying to overcome what these programs are trying to do. Even today, quite a bit is like that. So that, if I mention, when I'm trying to raise money because I needed money,
mhm,
this was a major hurdle.
mhm,
And but what has helped me in the last 8, 10 years, our children have got the jobs. So I could show, look at these kids, where they are working, look where they're studying. Just to give you an idea, I'm sending 7 kids this year who competed at the SAT, for admission to. They are in the 98 percentile, 97 percentile, of their ranking. And in their high school, they graduated with 95 percentile. So suddenly, these kids are shining. And where do they get admission? Princeton, Stanford, Duke, Dartmouth, Middlebury,
yeah,
University of Chicago. People are asking, how do you manage this? I didn't manage anything. Uh, you motivate them, do a good job, bring them up well, and it doesn't matter where they come from, how poor they are. And that's another point. People believe that children from poor homes don't have the potential. They don't have the ability to learn. They don't have role models in their families. Role models, yes, they don't have, but the ability to learn is an issue of nature versus nurture. And I belong to the school nurture is important, not your hereditary factors,
Mhm.
So I try to do my level best for them, bring them up well, train them to be socially acceptable, very good communicators, leadership qualities, in addition to academic skills. And
Mm.
then the third challenge, of course, is how do I turn them into good human beings? So there are three components of this, and I'm here from morning till evening, even at this age, 30 years later, working with the kids to turn them into very good people, very successful.
Wow. So powerful. I want to ask, okay, well, first of all, starting this school, for example, you got to find the right teachers, the right people to shepherd these kids. Once you have that in place, though, walk me through what a child experiences. Do you only accept them when they're 4, or can they come in at, 10 years old and start your programs? But yeah, could maybe give a little insight into what a student goes through.
Right. I gave a lot of thought to how I can mold these children. They come from the poorest to the poor, 10 feet by 10 feet, hut, no toilet, no kitchen, nothing. And there is, there may be 4 children, 5 children, and I have several adults living in that little space. Even cattle, they bring it in, chicken and everything, because somebody may steal it. This is how, and they have only one meal a day. And there is all kinds of violence, there is drinking, there is beating the women, sexual incidents. When you have an environment like this, how do you expect a kid to learn anything? You can ask a kid to come to school and send the kid back at 3 o'clock, and you're back into this kind of a world. There's no way they can succeed. It's a sure recipe for failure. So I decided that I have to take them out. And a lot of people, thought that this is not right. The parents need to love their kids. Yeah, that's all true. But if you want this to happen, success to happen, this is what the parents also will have to sacrifice. They can come and see the kids every 3 months. They can take them home for 2 months of vacation and 1 month at Christmas time. All that I'll allow. But 9 months to 10 months, they have to live with me from morning till evening, sleep there in comfortable places, and live by the values that we teach. Nothing out of the ordinary, no philosophy, nothing of that kind. Do the right thing always. That's it. And we teach them what is the right thing, and then turn them into good leaders, soft skills, communication skills, good table manners, how to shake hands. God knows
Yeah,
everything we teach
life
them.
skills.
And
Absolutely.
yeah, they are fit for the society.
Yeah. So what does your day to day look like? I mean, you're there all day, morning to night. You do have a staff, but how do the kids see you? Do they call you Papa George? I mean, what is your role now?
I've
In
become
relation.
old enough to be called by most of the kids uh, when they address me in the letters, not otherwise. Otherwise, I ask them to call me Dr. George. That's it. I don't want any sir. Sir is not allowed. The word sir is not allowed in the school.
Mm,
Everybody by first name, or in my case, Dr. George. But when they write to me, Dad, dear Dad.
mm,
Because half of them don't even have dads. Okay, so I play the role of a dad. I'm strict, but I'm very loving, and I love the children, so there's no problem for me. My day starts at around 5:30, 6 o'clock. I wake up and do a little yoga and things like that, and get ready.
mm,
And I spent some morning hours with read emails and corresponding and answering questions people ask me. A typical day, I might have 100 emails to answer and messages. And then we have a school assembly where the whole school gathers, and that's the time we share the world events. For example, today the election in Turkey and the breakdown of the Iran negotiation, all that we discuss at this session, and then kids go on to their classes, and I might have individual meetings with some of the kids who have got problems or not learning and things like that. There is no kid who is uh, left alone. I mean, we try to take care of all kids,
Yeah.
And if you notice, I use the word kids or children. I didn't say students so far.
They're your family.
That is, in 30 years, I have not used the word student. I say my children.
Yeah.
And I realized that I'm capable of loving the children of the school, just like my two boys. I don't have a problem. And they love me too. So when they love you, me, and I love them, the energy you get is quite stimulating. You don't feel tired. You look, I'm talking to you at 8 o'clock in the evening. I'm quite alive as otherwise, and every day goes on like this. Of course, there are meetings, there are trips I have to make. There may be meeting with lawyers, meeting with bureaucracy, all kinds of things happen. Then a lot of visitors come in. Today, one multinational company came in to see the school. So all those things happen. And you have to be there for all these type of things.
Yeah, I think
That's my
that's
day.
I think that's part of your secret sauce of success there, Dr. George, because you're right. You treat them as family, versus that barrier between student and teach or, student teacher. But what's also beautiful is the kids are there 100% focused, for 9, 10 months out of the year, and they get to leverage, I think, being around kids from different ages, different groups. So, the younger ones are learning from the older ones. They're seeing what's ahead, whereas the young or the older ones have the ability to step up to a leadership role, right? Maybe and
Right,
for
right.
the little ones. Um, and I think that fosters kindness and empathy and just natural curiosity and learning and wanting to,
Right.
right? Wanting to make you proud. And so I think it's just a beautiful thing that you started. And I love that your son is also a part of this journey with you and that he
Right, right.
embraced it. But, all of this is originally your vision. So how did your family feel about you, selling everything and letting go of the business and starting over to do this endeavor? It can't be too hard for
Yeah,
them,
it was
right?
it
Or
was very confusing for them. Very
yeah.
confusing for them. Everybody knew that I had this idea of doing some social work. They didn't know how I was going to do that. I was so crazy. But I assured them there's enough money in the bank, so why do you have to worry? No. We have educated our children, they are in college, in good colleges, so don't have to worry. So what is that we want? We don't have any particular need. We have a beautiful house and everything else. So my arguments were fairly good. And so, but what they didn't realize is I'm going to use it all up and I'm going to do mistakes and lose the money. I did make mistakes, thinking that beachfront properties, there are only so much beachfront properties, they'll never go down in value. And here comes Katrina, and all my Florida and all that area of houses went down.
Yeah.
I never thought my $1 million homes will get hit by that,
Yeah.
by the subprime crisis. And here goes, nobody wants to buy rich homes. So there I go lose out. And then stocks, I thought that technology is the future. So Microsoft, Cisco, all these companies, and their value went down by 60%. If you look
Mm.
at the stock prices of those at that time, you'll find that they're really Oracle and always selling at $4, $8. So it was a total disaster, something I couldn't have as a businessman seen coming.
Yeah. Scary.
So that is the crisis that I faced and my family had to face, and of course they said you were not careful, you didn't get out of things, and of course I had a very hard time and dealing with it myself. What did I do? With all my investments. But
Hmm.
then came back, succeeded, get back on our
Yeah.
feet.
Yeah. Because you didn't give up, which is, you just got to keep on going, right? That's what
Right,
one of the
right.
best things life teaches you is to keep on going because there's something great on the other side. Um, where do you think your moral compass comes from?
It has a lot to do with my parents, their parenting. Um, we belong to a middle class family. My parents were not very rich initially, though the grandparents were rich. They were pretty strict with. After getting married, my father and mother didn't get much of assistance. My father was a lawyer, he didn't get enough cases. My mother was a professor, a lecturer, and the salaries were dismally poor, low. And so we were struggling. But my mother was an amazing woman. If I may say about her, she's no more. She would have been 108 today. By this time. She died at the age of 96. She is the second woman in India to get a PhD in physics from all of India, second woman. She worked
Wow.
for, taught at NYU, New York University. She worked for the NASA. She worked for the National Bureau of Standards. At the age of 40, she came to America all alone. So she was a role model for us. So all four siblings had to follow her,
Hmm.
and then she was very humble.
Hmm.
She told us that if you are humble, you'll make all the right decisions. If
Hmm.
you are arrogant, you'll make all the wrong decisions in your life. And that was a principle we followed.
Hmm.
And we never went about doing any harm to anyone and so on. And so the decision making, whether small or big, was very simple. Ask ourselves the question, is it the right thing to do? If it's not the right thing to do, don't do it. And
Yeah.
so you don't have to read some great philosopher's work to make that decision, and that is the only thing that we follow. Now, empathy, compassion, all those things came about seeing how my parents treated other people as equals.
Hmm.
If I may tell a small story, in my church, I was born in a Christian family. In a church where two factions in the church were fighting with each other, and one faction broke off, and they wanted to build another church. And the bishop of that faction came over to our house and said, asked my father for money to build a church. My father said, I don't agree with the second church. I think you should live together. It should be one church. And then he got very angry. He said, God will certainly punish you. And my father got very angry. Who are you to speak for God? Take off your black robe and go and work among the poor. And I was hardly 8 years old. And I was listening to this conversation where my father was telling the bishop to get out of the house and work in the slums, But the whole idea of working in the slums and, not being all this pompous religious thing, they had a profound effect. Sure, my parents didn't have the money to help the poor, but the idea of service was always there.
Mm. Wow. Okay, let's pivot to your book, Dr. George. You wrote, I saw the cover earlier. It's gorgeous. Would you mind showing those who
Oh,
are
yeah, yeah.
reading your book? And
Um,
then tell us about your book. Tell us why you wrote it. And maybe you could honor us with a reading from it.
all right. The name of the book is Mountains to Cross, which, the obstacles you have to overcome and all that. And it became a USA Today bestseller, Amazon, it was a bestseller, and some other one, it was a bestseller. I don't know. A number of places. And the book is being launched in India this week. Um, and it was launched in US a couple of months ago. Quite a bit of acclaim in the United States. Um, the subtitle is Finding Life's Purpose in Service. Finding Life's Purpose in Service. And I am arguing in this book, apart from telling my own story from childhood, I'm arguing that you'll find great deal of joy in service. And you can be immensely successful, you can make a lot of money, but there will be something, there will be a vacuum in your life if you don't reach out to people who need your help. And if everybody would do some little thing for someone else, there'll be no poverty in this world. Without accumulating more and more wealth, if they would allocate 10% of their wealth to help the poor, there will be no poverty in the world. You can calculate the statistics of the wealth in the world, 10% of that, and see how much it is. Unimaginable amount. So each year, and so I am trying to tell them what I have found. I have found in service the joy I have received, the happy faces that I've seen. You could see, when I go on in the car to the city, I always keep a little money in the glove compartment of the car because I know when I stop at a red light, some beggar would come to the window and ask for it. And sometimes maybe a woman who is skin and bones with a baby in her arm. I can see the baby hasn't had milk. Mother doesn't have any milk. It's so cruel to the situation. And so I come prepared. So I can take out from a glove and give it to her. She could have a little breakfast, and maybe the baby will get a little milk that day. And the suffering is indescribable. And we shut the window and close the door and don't worry about who is living in what way. And that is, unpardonable. I feel that indifference is as big a crime as, actually not having the empathy to do something. And I say empathy or compassion is not enough. I'll read a passage where I have written that. The motivation for writing was to tell them what I have discovered in my work and what joy it has given me. And also, the book is a conversation between me and the children that I bring up. And I'm trying to make them embrace the idea of service from a very young age so that when they become successful, they will reach out to others and this will multiply. That's my goal. That's my model. I haven't come here to make every kid a millionaire. That is not my goal. I want them to go out and work and help other people. So this book is a lot of this conversation is there, or I describe what it is. Um, um, so if you would want me to, I will be happy to read a
Yes,
little bit. Uh,
please.
Please understand that this is what I'm telling the kids, not necessarily telling my readers, okay? But it's good for everyone, if I may.
Yes.
Eh, and I tell the children, you should save money, okay? I have suggested to our alumni, that is the kids who are graduated and working, that they allocate a small percentage of their income to support the future children of Shanti who are yet to pass through the gates. I assume that their kinship with the younger children will motivate them to reach out uh, to the children within their means. This solemn obligation extends beyond blood relationships to strangers as well. It is an act with no human boundaries. And I tell them, when they say it will help my parents, my siblings, because we are part of the same blood. No, when you marry someone, your husband is not got the same blood. So why are you talking about blood? So that argument doesn't fly. Anyway, let me continue. Unfortunately, human desires and self-interest often overshadow our best intentions. As mature adults, our graduates will have many needs. They will undoubtedly desire to own a house, buy a car, and enjoy other comforts. When selfishness takes over and excuses and indifference cloud a clear conscience, earlier promises might go unmet. Giving money to humanitarian causes might not be their immediate concern, and consequently, they might postpone it to future years when they might become prosperous and willing. By the same token, the desire to undertake something of major significance might cause a delay in taking small steps now and building on them. But I expect our graduates to assign a high priority to this moral imperative and not treat it as an act of charity or a favor to consider during a later time. Good intentions are not a substitute for inaction. Regardless of how the future turns out, I hope that their inner voice will persuade them to act as early as possible. Even when they fulfill their duty and encourage others to do the same, the resulting multiplicative impact will be enormous. With thousands of Chandigarh children graduates in prominent positions, their economic status and influence will one day root out the caste system in India today. That's my hope. That's a big hope, but I'm saying, preaching to the kids what their
Yeah.
duty is.
So is it going to be required reading for all the kids to read your book? Do you think your students, your kids will read your book?
They have all read my book,
Mm-hmm.
and when they will act is it's a question. They first want to set their homes in order, their poor parents and so on. It'll take a few years, and then I hope they will begin to reach out. They have many other needs. They have to go to graduate school. They need a small house. So many human needs. So this will get postponed.
Yes. Yeah. Are you going to write any more books, Dr. George?
Um, I won't write about myself. I'll write about the story of a few kids,
Hmm.
their lives, their upbringing, their hardship, their pain, their stories, their dreams. I would like to tell their stories, a few, maybe three or four.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful. And I'm glad you're doing that, and I look forward to reading that book when you have that one out as well. So before we wrap up, are there any other topics that you want to cover? Any projects that you're going to be working on that you would like to share with us?
Well, you introduced me by pointing out that, we run a hospital for the village folks. It's a free hospital. It's not a hospital, it's more like a clinic, okay? It's an outpatient clinic. You can't run a hospital free. Um, uh, I did work on lead poisoning, and we were instrumental for persuading the government to remove lead from gasoline. We build homes for the poor, model homes that will last for years to come.
Mm.
We do a number of community services like fixing up schools in the villages and so on. So there are many, many. In COVID time, we were supplying food items to the people who didn't have jobs and were starving. So there are a number of things we do. They're all fine. But I want to touch a philosophical issue here, and that is that, we talk about compassion. Actually, it starts with sympathy. We feel sympathetic about somebody. That's a great feeling. Then we have empathy. And then the empathy is one degree higher, where you feel for the person and you want something to be done. Then compassion comes into play, where you really you are in that person's shoes and you are ready to do something.
Mhm.
And I am arguing none of those things are enough. None of those things has made any difference to the other person until you act on them.
Mm.
So I use the word compassion in action. When you act on your compassion, yeah, then something happens. And you have to be prepared for it. Like I gave you the story of carrying some rupees in my glove compartment. I come prepared so that this woman comes to my window, I can give that. I can't say to her, I don't have any money with me.
Mhm.
That's not a good excuse. So you have to be prepared to act. When you act, of course, you bring joy to the other person, and hopefully you will find some satisfaction. So I use the word compassion in action.
I love it. We need to trademark that. Um, I feel like yes, compassion in action is definitely the way to go, and doing it with intention, which is what is more profound, right? Because like you said,
Right.
you're driving your car and that is your intention to make sure that you have some money in your glove box. What is one thing, one suggestion that we can put into action today to stay
Well,
passionate?
if I were to talk to young people, I would say the small things, very small things. Work in the soup kitchen, or go to a hospital and you know push the what is it uh, the bed, um, or do some service. You know, you don't have money, but do that. When you start earning money, do small things, and maybe you can sponsor one child, in this place like mine or some other school. And so that kid gets an education and an upbringing. And then when you start making more and more money, you can do big things. And when you have a lot of money, you have the power to transform society. Don't miss out. You're not going to take that money into your grave.
Mm,
Uh, and so think of how you can find good people who will do the job for you if you don't want to work. I made a choice to work myself, but that model is not necessarily everyone's model. They don't want to go and live for 30 years in a remote village. Okay. So I understand that everybody's calling is not that. So you can find good people and monitor it. Be there once in a way, and you'll find a lot of satisfaction and transform society, transform the lives of the poor. We owe it on them, and it's not charity. I don't like the word charity. I would say duty. It's your duty to serve. Service is what you do, not giving out. Charity sounds like doing something, dishing out something. I there are certain words in this profession of NGOs which actually distorted. For example, you hear all the time, you made a big sacrifice. What sacrifice? You haven't made any sacrifice. You're obliged. You should be doing this. Don't talk about sacrifice. So when you get rid of all these useless words, you'll focus correctly, and you will not be thinking about getting recognition for yourself or some reward. Because if you are seeking recognition or reward, your actions will go towards getting them rather than actually serving people. So get rid of all these type of things, and you'll be able to do a good job.
I love it. So many good nuggets of wisdom. Thank you, Dr. George. Normally I ask my guests, where can we find you? But I Googled you and you were everywhere. So listeners, if you want to find Dr. George, just type in his name in the search engine. But where would you like to redirect people as a landing page? Is there one website or you tell us?
Right. As you said, if you find me, then you will find the school I run, Shanti Bhavan. You will find all the other projects I do. Sooner or later, you go around the Google. But I want to direct people to Mountains to Cross. That's what I want people to read. It just come out, Mountains to Cross. All the money I get from royalty goes to humanitarian services. So you'll be doing a good thing. You won't be funding me, you'll be funding something good. So look for Mountains to Cross on Amazon, and or any of the online,
Yeah.
And if you find after reading it, leave a note on Amazon, and if you find those ideas make sense to you, maybe you can form your own thoughts, how you want to do it. There is no one model for this. I don't have all the answers. So you will be able to create your own model for serving others. But at the end of the day, what you need to do, make a difference to the lives of the needy.
Yes. And write a review. If you pick up the book, please write a review. We authors love reviews because it truly does help us to, get our message out.
Right.
Just to continue writing, encourage us to write better. But yes, be kind and write a review. So with that, I want to thank you, Dr. George, for an extraordinary conversation. It was truly my honor to spend an hour with you today. And listeners, please, Dr. George reminds us that success is not merely accumulation, it is transformation, and not just of systems, but of self. So his journey from soldier to scholar, from entrepreneur to social reformer, challenges us to ask a powerful question, which is, what will we do with the privileges and platforms we've been given? So if today's episode resonated with you, please share it with someone who believes that idealism and action can coexist. And leave us a review, subscribe to Quixotic Heights, and continue climbing with us toward the bold, the visionary, and the possible. So until next time, keep reaching for your own Quixotic Heights. And with that, thank you so much, Dr. George, for spending time with us. Again, it has been my honor, and I look forward to releasing this episode for the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you for all the wonderful things you do and all the books I can see in the background that you're written. I wish I could write that many books,
Oh,
but
I know you
anyway.
can. I know you can. You've got all the stories. So I look forward to reading them. Go get writing. Thank
Thank you.
you.
Thank you immensely. Thank you.
Thank you.